One Reaction with Levy, and welcome back to the Daily One Reaction here on August 4th. It has been a busy week. Let's break it down. We're going to start with free agency. We've got a lot of moves to cover. Most of the moves right now are on my website. We'll go over a couple of them, but we're going to start with the move that just came in New York. The New York Knicks have now the Thunder have bought out Kemba Walker. New York Knicks are expected to sign him for roughly about $8 million a year. Kemba Walker will be a New York Knick, which is something that the Knicks have been coveting for a couple years now, and they'll pay a discounted salary around $8 million a year for a guy that was an All-Star not too long ago. The key, of course, is his health. He struggled in Boston with his health, and time will tell. But now the Knicks finally get a guard to run this offense instead of a 30-plus-year-old Derrick Rose, who's had injury problems. The starting lineup now, Walker, Barrett, Fournier, Randall, Robinson, talented bench as well. Rose, Quickly, Burks, Toppin/Gibson, Noel, and then rookies McBride and Grimes will pitch in. That's a deep team. Very deep team. Now you got two guys, and Walker and Fournier, that will help this offense take big shots. Barrett should continue to get better. If Randall stays on his all-star level, he'll be another option to go to. He won't have to carry the burden of the New York Knicks. And Mitchell Robinson coming back, he can be pretty good this year. So I think there's a lot to like, a lot of potential for this New York Knicks team. They're certainly not a contender right now, of course. There'll be another team competing with like a Chicago Bulls who spend much more money on guys that they don't know if they're going to fit. So I like what the Knicks are doing. You go get a guy, Kemba Walker, potential All-Star for $8 million. They're building this core. They're being patient, Leon Rose. And if the only guy where you blow this whole thing up that comes available is Damian Lillard, of course, you get Kemba Walker now, so you don't need him as much. You have an all-star level point guard potentially with defense to cover him up. A lot to like from New York to get this guy. Hopefully he stays healthy, but an exciting time for Knicks fans. But this is the team, again, Kemba Walker coming to New York. This is a very defensive-minded team. Now you get a guy that struggles on defense that they couldn't mask in Boston. He wants to be here, and he's an all-star level offensive player that he can be masked defensively, which is very good news for Knicks fans. They will play to Walker's strengths instead of his weaknesses. Other free agent news, we're not going to go into a lot here, but the Lakers, of course, they got Kendrick Nunn on a discounted price. Carmelo Anthony, veterans minimum. Trevor Ariza, veterans minimum. Dwight Howard, Wayne Ellington, Malik Monk. This is a roster that got older, but also probably better with these moves. You expect Davis to play the 5 to allow for more shooting on the floor. I think Monk and Ellington are probably the key. If they can shoot well here in LA, that will give the Lakers a lot of flexibility to play these other guys. I expect Anthony, Ariza, Howard to lead that bench, especially with Nunn. That's a really good contract, 2-year, $10 million. They'll be firmly in the race. We know that. And it's going to be about, can Russ, LeBron, AD, and these other pieces figure it out? No injuries, none of that, because they're very old. The key question is age, but they certainly have the talent to compete with the Clippers, with the Jazz, with the Suns in the Western Conference, which feel like the 4 best teams in the West right now with no Jamal Murray till March. Nets, under the radar signing. Last thing we're going to go into, Patty Mills. I like this signing for the Brooklyn Nets. As much as Knicks fans don't want to hear this, it's a very good signing. 2 years, $12 million. You replace you get a Spencer Dinwiddie type of player at a cheaper contract who is healthy. He's been in a system in San Antonio which hasn't been the best for him. He's a guy that's a quick hitter off the bench, and I think he'll give Brooklyn a lot of punch, a lot of youth, and I think if injuries come to this big three, this guy can carry him for a couple games in the regular season. So you got to like this move for Brooklyn, getting a guy cheap. Patty Mills, I think he's a very good player, and that was a very under-the-radar signing yesterday. Other free agent news about the Bulls, about the Heat, all that on my website, one-reaction.com. It's all up, all written about. Go check it out. We're not going to go into it today because we got to get to our NFL training camp roundup. We're still moving along. Today, we hit the AFC East. So let's start with the Buffalo Bills 3 headliner. Here we go. Number 1, can Josh Allen stay at the same level he was last year with the addition of Emmanuel Sanders to this talented receiving core? Now they got Sanders you get on the outside with Diggs, and then you got Beasley in the slot. So this With this talented receiving core, can Josh Allen continue to elevate? He's been very patient, very strong at camp. Can he continue that? Matt Milano, back healthy, while Sheldon Richardson, very good run defender, opted out last year. He's back. Can these guys help revitalize this defensive line, and especially their weakness against the run? They struggled against the run mightily last year. You saw it against the Colts and the Chiefs and the Ravens in the AFC playoffs. They got to get better on that side of the football. Sheldon Richardson and Matt Milano healthy will certainly help that. And number 3, it's very simple. Do they have what it takes? Can Josh Allen, this offense, can they keep up with Kansas City? Can this defense continue to put pressure, continue to learn how to stop the run? Can this team have what it takes to surpass Kansas City in the AFC? It will be a very fascinating race for sure. There will be other teams involved as well that we'll get into tomorrow, including Baltimore and Cleveland. But Kansas City, Buffalo look to be the 2 favorites in the AFC. Miami, they're looking for their franchise quarterback, and Tua Tagovailoa has looked good in camp so far. Can he be the franchise quarterback going forward and take that step forward this season? He struggled last season compared to his counterpart, who went 6th overall, and Justin Herbert, who thrived. Can he take that next step and really show that he's a franchise quarterback and that he deserved to be a top 5 pick? What's the deal with Xavier Howard? This is a guy that has asked for a trade in the offseason. Nothing's reported. He's not practicing right now. Will Miami trade him? And he's opposite Byron Jones. He deserves, in his opinion, to be the highest paid player. That's the background. Over Byron Jones, he's not. So it'll be interesting to see what that does. And if they trade him, who's their second corner in Miami? That defense probably takes a step back. Number 3, do the new additions. On the offensive side, their weakness was throwing the football. They got Jalen Waddle, top 6 pick. They got Will Fuller, guy from Houston. Do those 2 guys help Tua and this offense become more explosive? Because a reason for Tua's struggles was maybe the weapons not as good. Now you get 2 guys that know how to play football. Jalen Waddle, if he's healthy. Will Fuller, if they're healthy. These 2 receivers, along with Devontae Parker, give the Dolphins a very scary receiving core for defenses. Let's move on to the New York Jets. Is Zach Wilson the next Sam Darnold, or can he show promise as a rookie and really take the reins as the franchise quarterback? What's the culture Robert Saleh instills in New York? He's a tough-minded coach. A lot of players love him. What does he do in New York in his first season? You just want to look for improvement if you're the Jets. No sights on the playoffs or Super Bowl, I think, this year. And number 3, what's the impact of C.J. Mosley on this defense coming back? They're opting out last season. What's his status in New York? Let's move on to New England. QB competition time. Jones, Newton. Can Jones surpass Newton to start the year? I don't know, but I bet you Mac Jones starts within the first 6 weeks. 2, can the signings of Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, a tight end, mask the weakness? Because they still have that weakness at wide receiver. They opted, and Bill Belichick opted to go for 2 tight ends. Very interesting move. They also got Nelson Aguilar from Vegas, who had a bounce-back year. So can those 3 guys really help this New England Patriot receiving core? Number 3, Stephon Gilmore. A lot of rumors with him being traded. Can him and this defense return to dominance like they did 2 years ago with Tom Brady? That will be a storyline to watch as we head into training camp. So the daily one reaction here, one reaction with Levy breaking down an NBA free agency and NFL training camp 3 headline roundup. We start today with the AFC East. Next week we'll have the AFC North.